There is a quiet moment in every champion's life, a moment when the world isn't clapping, when no one is watching, when there is no crowd, no spotlight, no celebration, just the sound of their own breath, steady and focused. It's in that silence that greatness is born, not in the noise, not in the cheers, but in the stillness of relentless work, when no one believes in you but you. This is the truth about winning in silence. Most people will never understand it because most people crave attention more than they crave transformation. They want applause before they've earned it. They want the reward before they've fought the battle. They want the result, but they fear the quiet rooms where greatness is actually forged. The world doesn't build legends in stadiums. It builds them in shadows, in garages, basements, tiny rooms, sleepless nights, empty gyms, long hallways, forgotten mornings when the alarm goes off and no one's there to cheer you on. The world builds legends in the silence of obsession. When Thomas Edison was working on creating the electric light, there were no reporters outside his lab, no news cameras, no praise. Just failure. Thousands of failures. Sleepless nights. The sound of glass breaking, wires burning, and his own mind whispering, "Try again." He wasn't chasing applause, he was chasing mastery. That's what silence does. It strips you of vanity and forces you to face the truth. Either you're committed to your dream or you're addicted to attention. Winners live in that quiet space where their vision is louder than any noise outside. They don't talk about what they're building, they become what they're building. You see, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. While the loud ones are busy announcing every move, the silent ones are stacking bricks, mastering their craft, aligning their vision, sharpening their sword. They don't need validation because the work itself is the proof. Look at the giants who shaped history. Henry Ford didn't broadcast every screw turned in his workshop. Walt Disney didn't hold a press conference every time he failed to fund his dream. Andrew Carnegie didn't seek applause when he was laying steel foundations that would change America. They were silent architects of their own destiny. The noise came later. The world clapped when the structure was finished. But most people, they want to show you the blueprints and demand a standing ovation before a single brick has been laid. And that's why they never finish anything. Their energy is spent seeking approval, not building empires. Understand this. Silence isn't about hiding your dreams. It's about protecting them. It's about guarding your vision from doubt, from gossip, from the small minds who will never understand why you're willing to bleed for something they can't see. The quiet seasons of your life are not punishment. They are preparation. Every tree that reaches the sky spends years underground first, growing roots no one applauds. Every empire is built stone by stone, brick by brick, in a silence that history forgets but legacy remembers. When you work in silence, the noise can't distract you. You don't hear the doubts. You don't hear the envy. You don't hear the cheap opinions of people who gave up on themselves years ago. You only hear the rhythm of your own discipline. Winning in silence is the art of starving your ego and feeding your greatness. It's where your actions become your voice. It's where your consistency speaks louder than your words ever could. The truth is, talk is easy. Posting about your dreams is easy. Making noise is easy. But getting up before sunrise, building when no one is watching, showing up when you're tired, bleeding for something that doesn't yet exist, that's where the real ones are forged. Look at the early mornings of every empire builder. They don't start with applause. They start with silence, coffee, notebooks, repetition. They start with people doubting them, mocking them, misunderstanding them. They start with nothing but belief and grit. Winners don't need to explain. Winners don't need to prove anything to anyone while they're building. Because when the work is real, when the foundation is solid, when the mission is bigger than their ego, the results will speak in a language the world can't ignore. The loudest room in a winner's life isn't a stadium. It's the one where they're alone, working in darkness, driven by a vision that only they can see. And when the curtain finally rises, when the world finally notices, they will say things like overnight success, as if the sleepless nights never existed. You must learn to be comfortable in that silence, to love it, to find strength in it, because silence isn't emptiness. Silence is where your greatness grows. And let me tell you something uncomfortable. The reason most people never win big in life isn't because they don't have talent. It's because they can't stay quiet long enough to build something real. They want to be seen, liked, approved. They want to be validated every step of the way. But greatness doesn't come with applause. Comes with scars. Comes with silence. You cannot win and seek validation at the same time. You must choose. And if you choose silence, you'll start to hear the one voice that matters most, your own. Discipline speaks in silence. Faith whispers in silence. Vision grows in silence. Doubt screams in noise. This is the battlefield. Most will lose here not because they lack the strength to win, but because they lack the patience to build. They break the seed open too early, expecting the fruit before the roots. They announce the war before they've forged the sword. They celebrate a dream that isn't yet built. The greatest victories in human history were not crafted on stage. They were crafted in the unseen hours, in dusty workshops, cold offices, basement studios, abandoned warehouses, lonely mornings and long nights. They were built by men and women who didn't need to scream about what they were going to do. They became it. Winning in silence means moving with intention, not noise. It means walking your path so powerfully that when the time comes, your results will be undeniable. The world will have no choice but to listen to what your work has been screaming all along. There is a reason warriors sharpen their blades at night. There is a reason storms gather before they strike. There is a reason the most powerful forces in nature don't need to announce themselves. Thunder doesn't ask permission to roar. The sun doesn't need applause to rise. The ocean doesn't need validation to shape the coast. If you are truly serious about your dream, stop performing and start building. The applause you think you need is just a distraction dressed as encouragement. Every second spent explaining your vision to someone who doesn't see it is a second stolen from your destiny. Move like a storm forming behind the mountains. Quiet, unstoppable, inevitable. And when the time is right, when your roots are deep and your foundation is strong, that's when the noise will come. The same people who doubted you will pretend they always believed. The same silence they mocked will become the silence they fear. Because nothing is louder than results. Nothing is louder than a legacy built without applause. So build. Build when no one is watching. Build when no one believes. Build until your silence becomes thunder. This is the truth about winning in silence. The path of the silent builder is not glamorous. It's lonely. It's misunderstood. It's brutal. But it's also where destiny favors the bold. It's where the future bows to those who keep walking when others stop to talk. This is how empires are born. Not through noise, through work, through patience, through unwavering faith in what the world can't yet see. You must understand. If your dream needs constant attention to survive, it will die the moment the applause stops. But if your dream is built in silence, it will live long after the noise fades. People will call you quiet, cold, detached. They'll say you've changed. But you haven't changed, you've grown. You've outgrown the need to explain yourself. You've outgrown the addiction to be seen. You've become focused, dangerous, clear. Every time you choose silence over validation, your power compounds. Every silent morning, every quiet grind, every unseen repetition, every uncelebrated victory. It all builds weight. And when the world finally sees you, they'll think it happened overnight. But you'll know the truth. It happened in the quiet. Legends aren't made in the spotlight. They're revealed there. The silence is where your mind learns to stand on its own legs. It's where your excuses have nowhere to hide. It's where comfort can't mask your lack of action. When the noise fades, the mirror becomes clearer. In silence, the truth doesn't whisper. It roars. And in that space, there's no crowd to lie to. No one to applaud your half-effort. No one to validate your delays. It's just you, your will, and your discipline. That's where the battle is fought. Not on the stage, not on the podium, but in those invisible moments when no one cares but you. Greatness isn't born from luck. It's born from preparation so quiet, so patient, that the world never sees it coming. A lion doesn't roar while it's stalking. It moves without sound. Every step measured, every breath controlled. Victory comes to those who understand the power of the unseen. When Abraham Lincoln was sharpening his vision for a divided nation, there were no roaring crowds in the early mornings. Just ink, paper, a mind sharpened by relentless clarity, and a purpose he refused to betray. He didn't announce his every move. He forged a strategy history would never forget. That's what real winners do. They don't talk about their plans. They become the plan. When you learn to win in silence, you learn to trust the quiet. You stop running from it. You start seeing it for what it is, a forge. A sacred, brutal, unglamorous forge where character is shaped and weakness burns away. Most people fear silence because silence exposes them. It reveals the truth of how much they've been pretending. It shows them whether they are disciplined or just motivated, whether their desire is real or borrowed, whether their dreams are living or just floating phrases. But the few who embrace it, the few who lean into the silence, become dangerous. Because silence trains killers of excuses. Understand this. You don't need to prove your dream to the world. You need to prove it to yourself. You don't need the world's validation. You need your own conviction. You don't need their noise. You need your fire. Every single titan who left a mark on this world spent seasons in silence. Thomas Edison surrounded himself with experiments and failure. Henry Ford built engines no one believed in. Walt Disney faced bankruptcy, rejection, and ridicule, but he didn't scream about it. He kept building until the world couldn't ignore the kingdom he had imagined. And this is what most people will never understand. Your silence is not weakness. It's the storm before the strike. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who no longer needs to be seen. The one whose energy is invested in mastery, not noise. The one who shows up daily when no one's watching, perfecting the craft, building the empire brick by brick. They walk into rooms with quiet confidence because they don't need to announce what they're capable of. Their results already do. That kind of power terrifies people. Because when you no longer depend on applause, you become unstoppable. The world tries to seduce you with quick attention. Likes, follows, claps, shallow validation disguised as progress. But attention is cheap. Attention fades. Applause dies down. What remains is the work. And only the silent builders know how to thrive after the noise disappears. You see, there's a reason why most people give up when it gets hard. Their dream was only alive when other people were watching. It was never real, it was a performance. But the silent ones, the disciplined ones, the patient ones, they don't need an audience. Their drive doesn't depend on spectators. It's rooted in vision. Vision doesn't need noise. Vision doesn't need praise. Vision doesn't need permission. That's why true power is always quiet. The nuclear core doesn't scream. The sun doesn't make announcements when it rises. Mountains don't need to convince anyone of their strength. Their power exists whether anyone is paying attention or not. That's the mindset of someone who wins in silence. You rise early when the world is sleeping, not because anyone will clap for you, but because your mission demands it. You stay late not because you want recognition, but because your standard is higher than their approval. You build when no one believes because belief isn't something you rent. It's something you own. Every single step you take in silence compounds. One page read, one rep completed, one plan refined, 1 hour of practice. Alone, quiet, uncelebrated. That's how momentum is built. And here's the truth. If you can learn to move without applause, your power multiplies. Because you're no longer controlled by the crowd. You're no longer addicted to noise. You no longer flinch when the world goes quiet. That's when the others fall apart. But you thrive. Silence creates strength because it removes the illusion. It removes the mask. It exposes who's real and who's performing. And the one who can keep building in that void becomes a force no obstacle can stop. Think about the bamboo tree. For years it grows underground, unseen. No one claps for its roots. No one notices. But when it finally breaks through the surface, it grows 80 feet in a matter of weeks. That's not magic. That's silent preparation. That's power built where no one was watching. When the world doesn't see you growing, keep going. When they doubt your silence, keep going. When they mock your lack of noise, keep going. Because your moment isn't theirs to predict. Every quiet morning you give to your craft is a down payment on your legacy. Every late night of relentless pursuit is a signature on your future. Every invisible effort is a brick in the wall of something massive. But here's the catch. This is where most give up. Not because they can't do it, but because they can't stand not being seen. They measure progress in attention, not execution. They value noise more than growth. And that's why they remain trapped in mediocrity while the silent ones become legends. Legends don't announce. Legends emerge. The power of silence is this. No one knows what's coming until it's too late to stop it. Your dream should be like a storm forming behind closed doors. They don't see it until it's overhead. Your grind should be like tectonic plates shifting in the dark. Invisible, unstoppable, inevitable. This is what Napoleon Hill meant when he spoke about definiteness of purpose. This is what the giants of history understood. They built with such clarity and quiet determination that by the time the world caught on, their destiny was already written. You must learn to protect your vision like a secret weapon. You must learn to let your silence become your shield. You must learn to speak only through your results. When you no longer talk about the mountain you're going to climb, but simply disappear and return from its peak, the world listens differently. The same people who laughed at your silence will choke on your success. That is the quiet power of those who build without permission. And yes, silence is hard. Silence is lonely. Silence is misunderstood. People will question you. They'll say you're too quiet. They'll say you've changed. They'll mistake your focus for arrogance. But let them, because you're not here to convince them, you're here to build something they can't comprehend. That quiet you're in right now, that season of obscurity, of invisible work, of uncelebrated effort, that is the season your future self will thank you for. Because that's where greatness grows roots. That's where real mastery is formed. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them mock the silence they fear. Because they don't understand that silence isn't the absence of power. It's the concentration of it. The silence is not just where strength is forged. It's where resilience becomes unshakable. Because in the quiet, no one is coming to save you. No one is handing you permission. No one is holding your hand through the storm. You learn to depend on something far greater, your own will, your own vision, your own fire. The noise of the world teaches people to react. But the silence teaches warriors to respond with precision. In noise, they chase trends. In silence, they build empires. In noise, they need constant reassurance. In silence, they cultivate unbreakable faith. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be heard. It stands still and burns from within. That's the kind of faith Edison had when he failed thousands of times. That's the faith Thomas Edison needed to keep striking at darkness until light was born. That's the faith Henry Ford carried when people mocked the idea of cars. That's the faith Andrew Carnegie held when he bet everything on a vision no one else could see. That is the quiet faith that wins. And when you truly believe in something that deeply, you don't have to shout it. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to convince anyone. You just move with clarity, with force, with purpose. That's what separates the loud dreamers from the silent winners. Loud dreamers wait for perfect conditions. Silent winners build in chaos. Loud dreamers seek applause. Silent winners build legacies. Loud dreamers get distracted by every sound. Silent winners become the sound. But here's the deeper truth. Winning in silence isn't about proving the world wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about knowing that when the lights are off, when the room is empty, when it's just you and your goal, your commitment doesn't fade. That's the crucible where greatness is tempered. Every time you choose to keep going in silence, your character hardens like steel. Every time you rise without applause, your resilience deepens. Every time you choose work over words, your destiny sharpens its edge. Think about the great generals of history. They didn't announce their strategies to the world. They prepared. They moved in silence. They struck when the time was right, not when it felt good. That's how true victories are won. Not by noise, but by precision. And your life, your dream, your empire, your legacy demands that same precision. It demands you stop shouting and start building. It demands you stop announcing and start executing. It demands you stop performing for attention and start working for impact. Because here's the unspoken law of greatness. If they can see everything you're doing, you're not building fast enough. You're entertaining. The quiet ones, the dangerous ones, disappear into the work. They remove distractions like surgeons cutting away dead weight. They speak only in results. They emerge not with explanations but with empires. And by the time the world looks up, it's already too late to compete with them. That's the silent advantage. While the others talk, you build. While they argue, you grow. While they hesitate, you move. And yes, it will be lonely. But understand, silence doesn't mean isolation. It means refinement. It means that while the world is busy shouting at the surface, you're deep beneath it, laying foundations too strong to be moved by noise. The seed doesn't shout when it's growing. The lion doesn't roar before the hunt. The river doesn't announce when it's carving stone. Power moves quietly. Destiny moves quietly. The strongest storms are born in silence. Your silence is your strategy. It is the shield that guards your vision and the hammer that builds your future. It's the difference between those who talk about becoming legends and those who become them. And when the world finally sees you, when they hear the thunder of what you've built, they'll call it luck. They'll say you were in the right place at the right time. They'll pretend they always believed. But you'll know the truth. You didn't get lucky. You prepared in silence. You fought in silence. You bled in silence. The applause they give you then will mean nothing compared to the quiet conviction that carried you here. And let me give you a truth that might sting. The people who are loudest about their dreams are often the first to abandon them. Because when the applause fades, so does their commitment. But the ones who build quietly, they can't be stopped. Because their commitment doesn't live in the noise, it lives in the fire. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation is loud. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is quiet. Discipline is a furnace that never goes out. Discipline doesn't need to be seen, it needs to be done. And discipline, done in silence, becomes a power no one can take from you. Every day you build without recognition, your discipline grows heavier, sharper, stronger. It becomes armor. It becomes a weapon. It becomes a voice that speaks long after you've stopped talking. And there will come a day, yes, a day you can't yet see, when the silence you've lived in will break like thunder. The ground will shake with the weight of your results. And the same world that ignored your effort will be forced to acknowledge your impact. But here's the secret only the great ones know. By the time they clap for you, you won't need it anymore. You'll have outgrown the need for applause. Because you won't have been building for them. You'll have been building for something far greater, your purpose, your calling, your legacy. Winners who understand silence don't care about fame, they care about legacy. Fame is loud and temporary. Legacy is quiet and eternal. Fame is applause. Legacy is impact. Every late night, every early morning, every small uncelebrated step. It's all legacy being built brick by brick. And the beauty of legacy is this, it doesn't need to shout. It echoes. When you choose to build in silence, your future self will walk through doors others can only knock on. You will move with a quiet authority that cannot be taught, only earned. You will become the storm they never saw coming. So embrace the quiet. Let the noise pass you by. Stop seeking to be seen and start becoming undeniable. Stop chasing applause and start chasing mastery. Stop asking for permission and start moving like the world belongs to you. Because when your work is real, it doesn't need a stage. When your vision is clear, it doesn't need validation. When your purpose is strong, it doesn't need to be loud. Your silence today is your thunder tomorrow. When everyone else is screaming for attention, be the one who is becoming dangerous. When they're busy showing, be busy growing. When they're talking, be transforming. This is how empires are built. This is how legends rise. This is how history is written. Not with noise, with quiet, relentless, unshakable action. The truth about winning in silence is simple. The silent ones aren't weak. They are unstoppable. So disappear into the work. Let your results speak. Let your silence thunder. Because when you finally rise, the world won't just hear you, it will feel you. And now, listen carefully. One day, long after the sleepless nights, long after the early mornings when no one believed in you, long after the world ignored the weight you carried alone, that silence will speak for you. It will speak louder than your voice ever could. It will speak louder than their doubts. It will speak louder than their opinions. Because silence doesn't lie. Work doesn't lie. Discipline doesn't lie. Every unseen hour will leave its fingerprints on the world. Every quiet decision will echo. Every moment you chose to build instead of boast will carve your signature into time itself. Think of the most powerful legacies humanity remembers. The names etched into history, the inventors, the dreamers, the revolutionaries, the builders. None of them needed to announce their greatness in advance. They simply built until the world had no choice but to remember them. That is the quiet victory. The kind of victory that cannot be erased by trends, by opinions, by temporary noise. There will be people who won't understand the way you move. They'll mistake your silence for weakness. They'll confuse your stillness with doubt. They'll think because you're quiet, you're not dangerous. Let them, because danger doesn't roar. It waits, prepares, it grows. And when the time comes, when the doors that were locked are forced open by the weight of your work, those same people will stand in awe of what your silence has built. But here's the part they will never grasp. The real reward isn't their applause. It's the man or woman you became in the quiet. It's the resilience you forged when no one cared. It's the discipline you built when no one was looking. It's the peace that grows when your worth is no longer dependent on their attention. That is the ultimate power. Not to be praised, but to be free. Free from the need to explain. Free from the addiction to be seen. Free from the prison of constant validation. Free to build. Free to rise. Free to lead. The silent path will break you at times. It will test your patience. It will demand sacrifices no one will ever see. But the silent path is also the only road that leads to true greatness. Because while the crowd is fighting to be noticed, you are mastering the art of becoming undeniable. Every day you spend in silence is a day your power compounds. Every quiet act of discipline is another blade sharpened. Every invisible step is another stone in your empire's foundation. And then, the day arrives. The silence you once stood in alone becomes the roar of everything you've built. The foundation beneath your feet is unshakable. You walk with the weight of someone who no longer needs the world's permission. Because by then, you'll have become the storm. Understand this. The loud will be forgotten. The quiet will be remembered. Because what's built in silence doesn't fade when the noise dies. It endures. It lives. This is your call to arms. This is your reminder that greatness has never belonged to the loud. It has always belonged to the consistent, the disciplined, the focused, the silent. Let them talk. You build. Let them brag. You move. Let them perform. You prepare. Let them chase applause. You chase destiny. Because destiny doesn't clap. Crowns. And when that moment comes, when your silence finally breaks like a wave over a world that never saw you coming, remember this night, this morning, this quiet season. The silence was never your weakness. It was your greatest weapon. Now go. Build in silence. Rise in silence. Win in silence. Let the world hear your thunder only when it's too late to stop it.